Okay, I'm here with Casey Stewart, who is a fellow single mother, basically helped me walk down this path because she has so many life lessons and wisdom along the way. So tell me your story. What happened when you were a mom?
Okay, so I got married before I graduated from BYU. We got married pretty young, right? And had my first baby, and then I found out, things got weird. They just got weird after he was born. I later found out that that's when he started seeking out other men for company. And we had another baby, and she wasn't even a year old, and I found out that he was actually acting out, and acting out meaning cheating on me with other men.
Well, first, before you just brush over that, well, how did you feel when you found out? What did you do?
You know what? Honestly, I felt angry and scared. I was just angry that he was cheating on me.
Yeah.
And then I was really scared because he wanted to make it right. He wanted to stay together and try to fix it. But
he's now telling you he's attracted to men.
Right.
So was he still attracted to you as a woman?
Well, yeah. I think he's probably bi. And what was really hard was I kept thinking, I'm going to have these kids and, we're going to have a family. We're moving on as if this is going to work. And what if it doesn't work? Then I'm stuck with all of these kids and no skills because I was a stay-at-home mom, and how am I going to support them? And I'll be old and nobody will want to date me. And, so yeah, I was scared a lot. So bottom line is we had 4 kids, and 4 years after I found out originally that he was cheating on me, I finally decided we can't do this anymore.
So you have 2 kids, you find out that he's not only unfaithful but homosexual.
Right.
And then you decide to stick it out for 2 more babies, and that's how many more years?
It was 4 more years.
4 more years. Was he unfaithful that whole time?
So he was excommunicated the first time, and then he got rebaptized 2 years later. And then 2 years after that, he was supposed to have, the restoration of his priesthood blessings. That's what I couldn't write the letter. I was supposed to write a letter, and I just couldn't do it, and I didn't know why. And through a lot of prayer and a lot agonizing kind of soul searching, I finally went to my bishop and I said, can you talk to him? Because I don't know why I can't do this for him, and that just doesn't seem right. That what's wrong with me, And he said, well, he talked to him and he found out that he had started seeing people again. I think it was was it 6 months after he was baptized or 18 months after? I don't know. It's all so long ago now, but basically he got rebaptized and then he started seeing people again. He was just playing the walking the walk, or talking the talk, but not walking the walk, right? Yeah.
Okay, so 4 babies. How many years were you married?
10.
10 years. And you finally decide to file that you don't. Why did you do it? You didn't what for your kids?
I just didn't want them to think that was okay for their spouse to cheat on them and want to stay married.
And he still wanted to stay married?
Yeah, that's what he told me because he had a friend who did that. His friend was the leader of this support group that he went to. He told my ex-husband, he said, he was my husband at the time, right? He said, well, have her call my wife, have her talk to her because, she's making it work. I don't know if this man was actually acting out, but he was very active in this group. And when I called her and talked to her, she talked about, this is how I survive. This is how I get through this. And this is how I get through that. And that was my thought process was, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to get through this and get through that and get through life. And I don't want my kids to think that this is normal and okay for their spouse to be unfaithful to them.
Because they're just going to repeat it, generational trauma.
Right.
Because history always repeats itself, and then it happens to your grandkids. And then the perpetual heartache just goes on for years and years and years.
Yeah, I felt like I had a better chance to have them have a healthier outlook on marriage and attitude towards marriage by raising them as a single mom than I did with a man who was not faithful. I mean, it must have been hard for him too, right? To pretend to be something that he really wasn't. And so
fast forward now, your kids are, well, actually, let's back up. Now you're a single mom of 4 little kids. How did you get through that time with no money, no partner? The belief in the nuclear family is gone.
Yeah.
How did you get through that, and what did you rely on?
My parents were amazing. They lived a half an hour away from me, but they came and rescued me all the time. They would come to church with me. They would come out on Monday nights and help me with family home evening. And they were the neutral ground for the drop-off point after parenting time, which I know I've shared with you. I felt like it helped my kids transition between their dad and me a little bit better. Because before, when it was just from him to me, it was just crying and miserable and naughty, for at least 24 hours afterwards until they were like, okay, we're home again. It was so frustrating. So anyway, they were my neutral ground. My ward family was amazing. Actually, my whole state family, because I lived in the state that I grew up in, and they were just incredible, amazing.
And you have taught me the principle of the frosting.
Yep.
And it has gotten me through lots of things when you feel like a failure, you feel like you're not doing enough, you feel like you're a bad mom, you have the mom guilt, the mom shame, and you just self-degrade. Tell us the metaphor of the frosting.
Yeah, that was given to me by my therapist that I went to after the divorce. I was beating myself up because I wanted them to be able to do all the things that all their friends were doing. And I felt like there was a lot of pressure at that time. Like, you had to have your kids in this and that and this and that, or they weren't going to be able to get into college. And anyway, he said, do you feed them? I said, yeah. Do you keep them clean? Yep. You make sure that they're clothed and they have a roof over their head? Yep. He goes, everything else is frosting.
You got the base of the cake, you got the eggs, the flour, the oil, the basics. The basic needs
flour.
Yeah. Or the box of cake mix.
Yeah. The football, the gymnastics, the dance classes,
the annual trips.
The trips, all of that. It was all just extra. And my kids they were always busy. They did stuff. Somehow I figured out how to make that happen, like you do. Because it's just really, I always feel like it's not fair for them to miss out on their childhood just because their mom and dad couldn't stay married. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to give our kids what we see everybody else doing for their kids. And that's not what makes a good person. Maybe they're happy. Of course we want our kids to be happy, but what we really want is for them to grow up and be good, right? Good people.
Yes.
And you can be happy and good, and you can, but.
So now an empty nester, your kids are grown, and it's not that the pain and the heartache just disappears. I know time helps, but he's still involved in their lives, and you're still having to deal with it. Not just the pain of divorce, but of actual betrayal, homosexuality. So let's talk about one more piece of this kind of complex situation that you were dealing with. You found out something also after he had been with other men. What did you find out that was traumatizing?
Yeah, the way I found out was that I had an STD.
Oh, that's how you found out.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You can imagine, very angry, little LDS girl with only one partner, and I had to go to the doctor and be tested for the whole rainbow, and I was pretty angry.
Is that what finally cut it off for you, or did you continue to stay and work on it?
Well, that's how I found out. So
first time.
Yeah. And when I talked to him, when he finally admitted, because at first he denied that he gave it to me, I could get it off of that seat. But when I went to the doctor, and she's like, nope, you don't get that off the toilet seat. And so besides that.
And you were going to do everything you could.
Yeah. And I've been criticized for that by some friends. Like, you should have left him the very first time. I'm like, well, he was the father of my children. I loved him. We promised forever. I wasn't a perfect person, I would have appreciated some grace if I had really botched it up, and so no, I stayed with him because that's what he said he wanted. And then we had 2 more children in that time.
So now with your kids grown and still having to deal with some of the heartache, and maybe your kids do too, what would you tell someone else who was going through this, or maybe was in the middle of it, or how you got through it at this point?
I think being true to what you know is true about yourself, about who you are in relationship to your family. So would this be a good time to do my 5 things? Because that is what one time they were with him, and I had a prayer, and I asked Heavenly Father how I was going to get them through this time, because I wanted them to be good people. And I got the answer. My 5 things that I was holding in my hand. It was have family prayer morning and night, which we did. I think until Tyler graduated from high school. And then now we only have nighttime family prayer. But morning and night. We read the scriptures every day. After nighttime family prayer, we would read having family home evening every week, which this is my favorite phrase, family home, let's see how fast we can get mom into her room crying evening, right? And that's what usually ended up happening until my parents started helping me. And then going to church every Sunday the whole time, and then regular temple attendance, with the asterisk at the end that my children have their agency, and I could do all those things with them, and they could still choose to walk away because they have their agency. And to remember that, but that they weren't going to have a choice if I didn't teach them those things, because the world would definitely teach them. They needed to have something else presented to them too, so they could choose. And so what I feel really shaped me into when you're talking about what what gets you through is there was a time that I didn't want to be part of the church anymore. I was making dumb decisions and I was angry because I did it the right way the first time, and look how it turned out. And so when I was in that place, I kept doing those things for my children because weirdly I still wanted that for them, even though I wanted nothing to do with it. But that act of doing that for them eventually pulled me through too, back to what I knew was my truth and back to where I find my peace and my strength. And so I think, first of all, being patient with ourselves while we're on our journey is really, really important. And remembering that everybody has their own journey and nobody's looks the same. And so I feel like that's why I feel like it's not hard for me to like genuinely really just love people and not judge them and just let them be where they are, because none of us are done till we're done, right?
Yeah.
And God knows how we need to learn. And so he guides us in the way that we need to go. So I think continuing to always be asking yourself, like we were talking about before, just being vulnerable and humble and being willing to ask yourself, what's my part in this? If any, because sometimes you think everything's fine and it's like, what happened? And I've always been very clear, if he had those feelings, I mean, how could I have been a better wife?
Yeah.
So I'm honestly, sometimes I feel grateful that is how it turned out, because if it had been another woman, I don't know if I ever would have recovered from that. My self-esteem would have been shattered.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think also gratitude is massive. Finding the gratitude every day. I had a tender mercy journal that I kept, and I think learning to be grateful for things. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes you got to really dig, but that's really important. But getting therapy, asking those questions, being willing to change how we respond to things, how we do things, is huge.
The fact that you weren't believing anymore in the church and that you wanted to be done and kept teaching your kids and kept having family home evening in the midst of your own faith crisis and betrayal. I mean, that's digging deep within yourself, doing something that you don't want to do, knowing that it's going to help your kids in the end. I think that takes a lot of inner strength and a lot of willpower, and you impress me.
Well, I think that is what gets us through and gets us past the initial rawness of the pain, because you're just getting up every day for your kids, and you're breathing for your kids, and you're putting one foot in front of the other for your kids until you can deal with your stuff. When you're an empty nester, then you get to deal with it. So yeah, someday. Anyway.